No, but I flew from Beijing.
From Beijing?
I flew from Beijing. Hi, everyone.
Wow.
I'm
really?
Siok. Yeah, I came from Beijing, yes, for Twitter's blog, quite aptly. The title of my talk is Making a Twittamentary. It's actually a secondary headline to the talk, and loosely translated into Mandarin, since I just came from Beijing. 就是为什么你要大老远走60条街去看推特纪录片的首映礼 Can anyone translate? There are no multilingual tweeting people here. Loosely translated back into English, it means the secondary headline of my talk is actually, why would you go 60 blocks from 92nd Y on a Tuesday night to catch the premiere of a Twitter documentary? So that's actually what I'm here to talk about. So as with any great existential question, there's the long answer and there's the short answer. The long answer is really that this is not just a documentary about Twitter, but it's actually a documentary more aptly about the 140 Characters Conference. Because in making the film, I told everyone that I crowdsourced the film using Twitter, and it's a film about Twitter made with the help of people on Twitter. But I cheated. I cheated because I found 140 Characters Conference, and because Jeff and Jill and other people have really curated a selection of great Twitter stories, so I had a shortcut. I didn't have to ask how many million people on Twitter for great stories. I could actually go to this treasure trove of Twitter stories that's kind of put together by the conference. And the film itself, when you watch it later tonight, is actually a journey between two conferences. We start in New York at one of the meetup for the 140 Character Conference, and we travel across country to LA, and the film ends up with the 140 Character Conference in Los Angeles. So this is the reason why you should go tonight, because after sitting through all the stories and hearing all the cast of characters share, this is actually one film that captures some of that on screen, you know, for posterity, whatever posterity means. Of course, the short answer to that, I think Jeff has really given, is pizza, right? So, but we will not allow people to eat the pizza if they have not watched the film, okay? So only people who can answer a pop quiz about the plot of the film, the key characters, will be allowed to partake in the pizza, okay? So whichever reason, no matter why you go to see the film, I'll be very grateful. And we call it the premiere, but actually it's probably more apt to call it the unpremiere. You know how we like to unconference, unpremiere. The reason is because the way the film is made is actually turning traditional filmmaking models on its head. So we actually did a lot of screenings, beta screenings that are actually organized by the community. As we were doing the rough cuts for the film, every 4 to 6 weeks we were screening it around the world. There have been 15 beta screenings on 3 different continents, and they're all put together by the community. People on Twitter who put up their hands and say they want to screen it for their community, give us feedback via Twitter about the film, and we shape the cut of the film accordingly. And even now, the film is still mainly seen in the form of community screenings. So I think it's a film that's really kind of true to the spirit of the idea that it's not just a kind of masses of people on Twitter, but it's actually a community of people that have shared interests. The idea that neighborhoods are not defined by geography, but rather because you come together, because you share a passion in something. And what I find interesting in the process of making the film is really, I think social media has given us the possibility of connection. And I think what the process of making the film taught me is really finding meaning in the connection. What does it mean to have that ability to connect with everyone? Does it collapse at some point into chaos, or can we really kind of create a sense of us, I always think that the art of storytelling is actually the art of creating a sense of us. It's not me and I and my problems or my pain, but it's not you and your pain and your issues, but it's rather us. We make the film together, and I think that's really the true spirit of making the film. And during every part of the process, whether when we were crowdsourcing for initial ideas or when we were tweeting as we travel across the country on the bus, and you know that when you travel across the country on the bus, you need a lot of help because it's not an easy way to go across the country, and people coming out to help us. I think, in fact, a lot of people who spoke earlier today, like Mark Horvath and Andy Dixon and Liz Strauss, are all part of the film, so you should definitely go and see them. I think the interesting thing for me is really that I find that my whole sense of what it means to be a storyteller or filmmaker has changed, because I find that the roles have become much more fluid. You know, the audience is no longer people that are in the distance, that are there to receive my genius output, but rather they switch roles, they play different roles in the process of making this film. There is a very good example, I think. Sinjin, where's Sinjin? Sinjin is the producer of the film. He became the producer about 15 months ago when he caught one of the early beta screenings in Singapore. And at that time, he had just sold off his mobile multimedia business. He looked very tanned and happy because he has made some money, and to me, that was a good sign. It means he has time, and he might be interested in helping me out. So he became, from an audience member, he became the producer of the film. And there are many, many examples of that in the whole process of the whole 3 years of making the film. I just want to share, I spent 3 years making this film from the time we announced the project until now. I consider today the close of a chapter as we premiered the film in New York, where we started making the film. And I remember there's a British journalist who was interviewing me, and being British, she was very reserved, polite, intellectual, but she asked me a very, very long question, at the end of which I asked her, "Are you trying to ask me?" I felt that he was trying to ask her real question was, "Are you insane?" You know, are you insane? You spent 3 years making this film. There's no prospect of making a profit. You know, why did you do this? And I think my answer to that is really the whole idea that there's a Chinese classical novel called Journey to the West, Siok, where a Chinese monk traveled to India to get the Buddhist scriptures. And it's a fantasy novel, and essentially he encountered demons, spirits, and devils along the way, and had to overcome all kinds of obstacles in order to get the scriptures. But the most interesting thing about the story is that the scriptures are blank. When he finally made it to India, the scriptures that were given to him, the scriptures are blank. And I think that's also my conclusion of 3 years of insanity, trying to crowdsource this film, not knowing whether I can get it made, is that essentially there is no purpose. There is no profit. I think it's the process of all the beautiful chance encounters on Twitter and off Twitter that really is the meaning of this whole process of making the film. And I think it's also what the 140 Characters Conference mean to me in terms of strangers around the world becoming friends, 140 characters at a time. So I hope to see you. We have lots of pizza.